Good afternoon and welcome everybody to ESPN's live coverage of round 14 of the 1995 PPG IndyCar World Series. I'm Guy Hobbs and we have a thrilling race on hand for you today around the 2.25 mile road course in the scenic Mid-Ohio area. But 2 weeks ago in Michigan, Scott Pruitt scored his first victory after regaining the lead from Al Unser Jr., who passes him with 1 lap to go. It also gave Firestone their first victory. Listen to how exciting it is in Spanish.
Y ahí va Al Unser Jr. adelante. Lo pasó a Pruitt faltando una vuelta, bandera blanca.
Y ahí se quedó Pruitt.
Y ahora va Pruitt. No puede. No. Falta bandera blanca. Bandera blanca. Viene la de Cuadros. Viene la bandera de Cuadros. Y entran los dos juntos. Entran los dos juntos a la rueda. Entran los dos juntos. Va pasando Pruitt. Viene la bandera Cuadros. Va pasando Pruitt. Firestone.
Sensacional carrera.
Después de 800 kilómetros de carrera, la fórmula del campeonato mundial IndyCar. Esto es ESPN.
That was 2 weeks ago, right now live here at Mid-Ohio. The big story this weekend is Jacques Villeneuve. He tested a Williams last week in England and has announced he's going to Formula One.
I managed to do a lot of laps, so I had plenty of time to adjust. And it actually was more difficult when I got back in the IndyCar because on the first 3 or 4 laps, you know, everything should feel good, and the car was really different than than I wasn't used to it anymore. So it took a few laps, but you know, when you have a lot of laps to adjust, it's a race car, and you know, any driver should be able to adjust. I've had 3 great years with Team Green, with Barry Green and all his crew, and Players Limited, and you know, we had a great time together. We've become friends, and you know, it's not easy. You know, I have friends with the other drivers as well. You know, it's a great series, and it's very entertaining, and there's a good feeling in between drivers. It's not you know, you don't feel like you have to look over your shoulder at all times. So yeah, it will you know, it will be hard, but you know, you adapt to anywhere you go.
The other big story this weekend is Paul Tracy and Team Penske have announced they will regroup for next year, recreating the dream team that finished 1, 2, and 3 here last year. Another story this weekend, Juan Manuel Fangio is standing in for Danny Sullivan, who was injured at Michigan 2 weeks ago. He's driving the Reynard Cosworth of the Pac West team and managed to qualify 12th in his debut in IndyCar racing. But this man got his 4th pole of the year. Jacques Villeneuve set the time on Friday and in fact sat out Saturday's qualifying as it stood up. But he did go out right towards the end of the session just to scrub in a few tires for today's race. Brian Herter will sit alongside him in the front row. At Portland back in June, Al Unser Jr. took the victory, but a couple of hours after the race, he was disqualified for his car being too low. Team Penske protested, that protest was denied, and now they're in the appeal stages. It may end up costing them 20 points in the championship, which Jacques Villeneuve now leads by 31 points. And as you can see, there is a capacity crowd on hand here at Mid-Ohio. We're about 1 hour south of Cleveland, and we are under some incredible heat here today. It's going to be a tough endurance race. Let's just take a quick look at the point standings after 13 of the 17 races. Of course, 1 bonus point going to Jacques Villeneuve for getting the pole yesterday in the qualifying. Ray Hall and Robbie Gordon both can still win the championship, and as you can see, piled up behind Robbie Gordon, a bunch of people trying to take the 3rd place position from him in the championship. Don't forget, he did not race 2 weeks ago in Michigan after having practice crash. IndyCar said he was not allowed to race, so he didn't get any points there. A very hot and big crowd and 3 pace laps here as we get ready to go 83 laps of racing, 298.8 kilometers. The race record set by Al Unser Jr. here last year, and Jacques Villeneuve set the qualifying record this weekend. It's a 3.6 kilometer road course, and helping us with the commentary today, Paul Page, Bobby Unser, Sam Posey, in the pits, Jack Arute and Gary Gerould.
As they completed the first of their parade laps, Al Unser Jr. came into the pits, changed his left rear tire. We'll keep track of him. Here's the lineup. Jacques Villeneuve on the pole. He broke the track record by almost a second, his 4th pole of the year. Brian Herta is alongside. His best career finish was 2nd at Cleveland, only 2 races ago. In row 2, Michael Andretti, the Toronto winner, has not started worse than 10th this season. And Big Mo, Mauricio Guzman, he's looking for his first top 10 finish since Portland. In row 3, Robbie Gordon. This is the first race since a practice crash at Michigan. And Gil de Ferran, the Cleveland pole winner, is the fastest Mercedes-Benz in the field. In row 4, Paul Tracy. He has 2 second-place finishes in 3 Mid-Ohio starts. And Al Unser Jr., the defending champion. Row 5, Bobby Rahal, a back-to-back winner here in 85 and 86. And Jimmy Vasser. In row 6, Adrian Fernandez and Andre Ribeiro. Row 7, Raul Boesel and Juan Manuel Fangio substituting for Danny Sullivan. In the 8th row, Christian Fittipaldi and Teo Fabi. Row 9, Stefan Johansson and Emerson Fittipaldi. The 10th row, Scott Goodyear is back, alongside with Parker Johnstone. In row 11, Scott Pruitt and Marco Greco. The 12th row, Eddie Cheever and Eliseo Salazar. The 13th row, Carlos Guerrero and Hiro Matsushita. In the 14th row, Eric Bachelard and Alessandro Zampedri. And alone in the 15th row, 29th position, Hubert Stromberger. So the PPG pace cars leading the field around, 29 cars. The track record here is held by Al Unser Jr. He said it during his win last year. Those fuel stops are absolutely critical. This is, after all, a tight road course. In the Nations Cup, United States is still leading in the points fight there. And then in today's field, there's the chassis, the engines, the tire breakdown in today's starting field. And in the Manufacturers' Championship, Mercedes-Benz is still trailing Ford Cosworth in that fight. And at this track, well, where are the trouble areas? There's actually one really critical area down there at 4 and 5. And coincidentally, when you look at the passing areas, well, one of them overlaps that. The other possible passing area, for routine passing, of course, is there in turn 2 going into the keyhole. And this season, the track records have just been falling right and left. Look at that. Guys who broke track records and the events they broke them at this season, with Jacques Villeneuve now with 4 brand new track records with his 4 poles thus far this season. So the Indy cars are set to go, and I'll tell you something, heat is truly a factor here. This may in fact be the hottest day in IndyCar racing since years ago at Cleveland, about 83 or 84. Now, Al Unser Jr., as you saw, came into the pits. Gary Gerald, any news on that?
Yeah, he thought he cut a tire, picked up a stone, and so he ducked in and they changed one of the rears. It was approved by CART. Of course, you're supposed to start the race on the tires that you qualify. That was okay, so everything appears to be routine after a quick tire change.
All right, as we mentioned, here at this course, they start over on the longest straightaway to give them plenty of racing room down to the first set of corners, which are those tight right and left-handers that are the trouble zone. And here we go. Whoa, somebody gets off the edge and back on. Kicks up a lot of dust as Villeneuve comes down to the inside. Michael Andretti moves into second place. One car off and sliding, stays away from the barrier.
He hit a little bit, Paul. Looks like his right front rubbed against the fence just a little bit there.
The right rear, though, looks like it may have let go. So Gugelmin drops into third place behind Michael Andretti. Now they climb, coming back up toward the pit straight, and they'll be making their first pass after the carousel here down the pit straight. There's the final turn onto the pit straight as Jacques Villeneuve completes the first lap as the leader. Michael Andretti in second place, then Gugelmin, then Herta. Robbie Gordon's dropped in to sixth place. Gil de Ferran is closing in. Gil made a great set of passes on that start. And there's Scott Pruitt into the pits prematurely, obviously. Our last winner, the Michigan 500, his first win. Scott Pruitt comes in. Going to change all 4. Let's take a look at the start once again. Looking up back in the top. He got in there with one of the Penske cars. That's part of what sent Parker Johnstone sliding. Trying to make sense out of this here at the back of the field. So that's 3-car contact back there at the back.
What happened is, Paul, they were all trying to vie for getting into the first turn, which is on the back straightaway this time together. There's Raul Boesel.
Got a problem.
Yeah, he's got problems too.
Let's go to Gary Gerald. Scott Pruitt, what's his problem, Gary?
Similar problem to Al Unser Jr. He had a cut tire, so they had to come in and change. This has been a real frustrating weekend thus far for the man who won the last IndyCar race.
That's a little weird, too, because they've had the jet, meaning that it blows everything off the track. They've had it out there completely around the racetrack and through the pit, so that's a little strange.
Jackaroo, Parker Johnstone situation.
We'll
Paul, he radioed in, Parker did to the crew, that he got hit hard in the back and it tore the front end of the car up so bad he does not think he can continue. They're waiting his arrival on pit road. Could be an early exit for Parker Johnstone, pole sitter in the Michigan 500.
We see two Formula One aspirants running 1-2. Jacques Villeneuve, who of course is going next year in the blue car, leading the race, and Michael Andretti, who went 3 years ago and had a tough season with McLaren. It'll be very interesting to see how Jacques fares next year in Formula One.
83 laps of scheduled distance here, 186.75 miles. This is Al Unser Jr.'s 200th career start, and already he's struggling a bit with it. Gary Gerould.
Well, Paul, here's another bizarre early race report. Juan Manuel Fangio II, driving Danny Sullivan's car for Pac West number 17, hit a woodchuck on the opening lap. I don't know that there was any damage at all to the race car, but some strange things happening early in the heat.
Gary, we saw that woodchuck out here the other day on Friday, and Emerson Fittipaldi almost ran him over that day.
And that was the exact same woodchuck.
Oh, of course it was.
Absolutely.
What color was it?
Well, here's a look forward from Bobby Rahal's car. Rahal must move up. He has not passed a great many cars in the season. Most of his passing has been in the pit, where he's picked up places through attrition. Today he's going to have to move and move hard past people that are very hard to get by, like Paul Tracy, who's right ahead of him now.
As Rahal chases Tracy, that's Al Unser Jr. moving up, trying to get into position on Rahal. Overall, it is a battle for 7th place.
And right in there is one of the passing places. Get used to where the cars are as they come around. Look at that turn at the end of the long straightaway where they started. That's where most of the passing will happen today.
This is a very demanding part of the track here. You see them becoming a little bit airborne there. Then right after that S-bend, another tight turn where they again get very light right in there and head up this Thunder Valley section of the track, which looks open to us as we see it in the camera. In the race car, it's rough and it's very narrow.
Back on board, Bobby Rahal.
As you watch this camera shot from Rahal's car, I just want to mention this. Sam and I were talking about this earlier. It's a beautiful shot. It shows you what the driver really sees. Up to the point where, remember, the camera is fixed. The driver's eyes are looking way ahead at the track. So as you watch this, all of you people watching television, put your eyes out in front when you see these on cams like this. Imagine that the driver's eyes are where he's going to go, not necessarily what we see on television.